Thick green fog wrapped the jungle like a heavy blanket. Trees rose high above the ground, their leaves wide and dark, casting deep shadows even in daylight. Strange sounds echoed from every direction: clicks, chirps, and distant roars. This was Planet Zara 7, a new jungle world chosen for the Galactic Cadet Survival Test. A sleek black shuttle landed softly on the wet grass, steam rising around it. The metal door opened, and 10 alien cadets stepped out, each in light armor and carrying basic survival packs. They looked around nervously. "This planet is uncharted but safe," their trainer had said before departure. "No intelligent life detected. Just stay sharp and complete your 7-day survival." But the jungle felt wrong. Too quiet in some moments, then suddenly loud. The sounds didn't feel natural. They felt like warnings. Among the cadets was a human, Rain. He was the only one from Earth, the only Deathworlder. The others came from high-tech worlds, calm atmospheres, gentle climates. They saw Earth as dangerous, filled with war and wild animals. Many cadets didn't like humans. They thought Rain was strange, cold, too quiet. "Too calm, let's move," said Trilek, the tall red-scaled cadet who was the group leader. "We'll reach the first checkpoint before night." The team moved forward through thick vines and muddy paths. Rain walked near the back, eyes scanning everything. His boots made no sound. His body stayed low and light. He touched the trees, bark, and frowned. It was too smooth. No insects, no moss. Something brushed the leaves above. Rain stopped. "What was that?" hissed Jula, a nervous cadet with insect wings. She looked up. A few leaves fell. "Nothing else. Just birds," Trilek said. "Keep moving." But Rain knew. Birds don't make no sound when flying. That was something else. Something watching. They walked another 10 minutes when a cadet shouted, "Where's Pell?" Everyone froze. Pell had been walking just behind Rain. They looked around. "Pell," Trilek called. "Where are you?" There was no answer. "Maybe he fell behind," another cadet said. They turned back. Pell's footprints in the mud stopped at a thick root. No signs of struggle, no blood, no sound. He was simply gone. "That's not possible," Jula whispered. Rain bent down, touched the dirt, then smelled it. "Something dragged him," Rain said softly. "What? Are you saying something's hunting us?" Trilek snapped. "This is a test zone." Rain stood and looked into the jungle. "Then the test is realer than they told us." They camped early that night, fear hanging over them like the heavy branches. Above, they built a small fire, placed sensor beacons around them, and took turns keeping watch. Rain offered to take the last shift before sunrise. Hours passed. The jungle whispered, then screamed. Another voice, loud and terrified, echoed through the dark. A short burst of sound. Then silence. The cadets jumped from their sleeping bags. They counted heads. "Kurna's gone." "Impossible. She was right next to me." Trilek grabbed his scanner, trying to get a read. Still no signal. What is wrong with these systems? Rain walked to the edge of the firelight where the scream had come from. He found only one thing: Kurna's scarf, torn. Wet. He looked at the trees. They looked back. The morning came with heavy clouds and deeper silence. Now only 8 cadets remained. No one smiled. No one joked. This was not a test anymore. Something hunted them, and they didn't even know what it was. "Maybe it's some natural animal," Jula said, trying to convince herself. "No," Rain said. "Animals don't take without a trace. They don't return to the same area again and again. This is planned. This is smart. And you would know?" Trilek said, angry and afraid. Rain nodded once. "I come from a planet where I had to survive forests worse than this by the age of 10. I know the difference between a beast and a hunter." The group looked at him. Some were doubtful. Some, for the first time, were listening. They moved again, slower this time. Rain took the lead now, pointing out which plants to avoid, which paths were too quiet. He noticed deep claw marks on a tree trunk, high up, deliberate, not a warning. A signature. Later that day, they reached an open field covered in tall red grass. Rain raised his hand. Stop, no one move. He crouched and picked up a thin thread, barely visible. A trap. He threw a stone into the grass. A loud whoosh shot upward as sharp spears launched from the ground. One of the cadets gasped. We were about to walk into that. Rain turned slowly. They're not just hunting, they're playing. Like cats with mice. Trillick clenched his fists. Enough, we have weapons, we fight. No, Rain said. We're being studied, watched. Every move is feeding them information. Trillick didn't listen. He raised his blaster and fired into the trees. Silence. Then something dropped from above. It was a drone. Torn apart, scorched, not one of theirs. Rain walked over and picked up a piece of it. Alien tech, unknown design. This is not nature. This is someone's lab. We're part of an experiment. The jungle roared again. This time they saw it. A shadow moved fast between the trees. Too fast. It was tall, thin, cloaked in something that bent light. It turned its head slightly, and a flash of green eyes showed for a second. The group fired. But it was gone in an instant. We saw it. A cadet shouted. Whatever that thing is, Rain said, it's not alone. That night, they didn't sleep. They built traps with branches and vines under Rain's guidance. He showed them how to use mud to hide heat signatures. He taught them to listen, to really listen for small changes in sound. This jungle is like a beating heart, he told them. When it stops, that's when something bad is coming. One cadet, Sarn, whispered, Rain, how are you so calm? Rain looked into the fire. I've been hunted before. He didn't say more. At dawn, they found a surprise. One of the creatures was caught in a trap. It wasn't dead, but injured. Its armor cracked, its mask half broken. It had 4 arms, sharp claws, and dark gray skin. The group circled it carefully. It's a juvenile, Rain said. A young one. Training. Training for what? Jula asked. Rain stared at the creature's glowing wristband. Training for the real hunt. Before they could decide what to do, the creature activated a signal on its wrist. Rain's eyes widened. Move. Now, they scattered just in time. A small blast shook the jungle. The juvenile was gone, burned by its own kind. No body left behind. They cleaned their mistakes, Rain whispered. Panic filled the group again. But this time, they listened to Rain fully. He became the leader, not by rank, but by survival. They stopped moving in groups. They became silent shadows. They avoided open areas. They ate only what Rain approved. Slowly, they felt less like targets and more like ghosts. More days passed. No one was taken. Then came the message. A beacon crackled to life, dropping from the sky. It carried a note. Survivors, extraction in 12 hours. Final check-in. Good luck. Rain narrowed his eyes. It's a trap. A way to force us into one place. But it's our only way out. Shouted Trillick. Rain nodded. We'll go, but not alone. That night, they prepared. Rain made spike traps, flame bombs, mud blinds. They turned the jungle into a weapon, and when the final ambush came, when the real hunters dropped from the sky, 3 of them cloaked in glowing armor, the cadets were ready. Explosions shook the trees. Spears flew. Mud traps caught feet. One hunter fell screaming into a pit of sharpened bones. Rain faced the last one himself. He used no gun, only a blade and instinct. They fought hard, steel clashing, blood flying. Rain moved like the wind, dodging, striking, surviving. Finally, he stabbed the hunter in the neck. It fell silent. The jungle grew quiet again. The team stood shaking, but alive. The shuttle arrived at last, landing hard on scorched grass. The rescue team looked shocked. Only 5. Cadets remained. But they stood tall. As Rain stepped aboard, the captain looked him over. "You led this group?" Rain nodded. The captain said, "We never expected the test to be real. Something interfered. We believe an unknown race hijacked the zone. It wasn't meant to be this deadly." Rain didn't reply. As the shuttle rose into the sky, someone asked him, "Rain, what kind of world is Earth really?" He looked out the window, watching the jungle disappear below. "Earth teaches you one rule," he said quietly. "You don't run from predators. You learn how to become one." The jungle was not quiet anymore. It breathed like a living creature. The wind moved through the leaves like whispers. Every sound had meaning. Every shadow could hide death. Rain crouched near a fallen tree, scanning the muddy ground. His fingers moved slowly over broken leaves, small marks and odd scratches on the bark. He was calm, focused, like a hunter, but his eyes told a different story. He wasn't just tracking something. He was trying to understand it. Behind him, Trillick stood with arms crossed, looking around nervously. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Rain nodded. "Yes, the trail is fresh. But it makes no sense. It's circling us." "That's the point," Rain said softly. "It's playing with us." The rest of the alien cadets stayed close together. Their faces were tense, eyes wide. They had started with 10 cadets. Now there were 8. Pell and Kerna had vanished without a trace. Jula, with her soft wings and quiet voice, moved closer to Rain. "You think it'll come back?" Rain didn't answer right away. He touched a leaf that had been sliced clean, not chewed, not broken. "Cut, yes," he finally said. And soon, they had no clear direction, no working map. The beacon signal was still jammed, and their communication devices picked up only static. Something or someone was interfering with their systems. "We should head to higher ground," Rain said, standing up. "If we get a view, maybe we can find another extraction point or signal tower." Trillick nodded but grumbled, "This whole thing is cursed." As they climbed the hill, Rain kept his hand on the hilt of his combat knife. It was old, scratched, and human-made. Not like the shiny plasma tools the others carried. But Rain trusted it more than any alien tech. At the top, they reached a rocky ridge. From here, they could see the jungle stretch in all directions. It looked endless. Mist rolled between the trees. Nothing moved. "Wait," Jula said, pointing. "What's that?" Far off in the distance, a thin metal tower rose above the canopy. It was old and half covered in vines, but it looked like a relay post. Maybe abandoned, maybe working. Rain narrowed his eyes. "It's at least 4 hours away on foot. And we'll be crossing open terrain." "Open terrain?" Trillick asked. "Why is that a problem?" Rain looked at him. "Because then we'll be the prey." The group moved carefully through the dense forest. Rain took the lead, slicing branches, checking for traps, listening for odd patterns. The sounds around them were wrong. Birds called in strange ways. Insects buzzed and then went silent too quickly. Once, the wind dropped completely for 10 full seconds. Then came the noise. It was faint at first, just a soft clicking sound, like metal tapping against metal. It moved fast and smooth, from one tree to the next. Everyone stopped. Rain whispered. They froze. Click, click, click. Then nothing. Rain slowly moved toward a tree and touched its base. Warm, not from the sun. "From something else. We're being followed," he said. "It's close." Suddenly, a sharp scream came from the back of the group. They turned to see a cadet Zor yanked backward into the trees. 1 second he was there. The next gone. "Zor!" Trillick shouted and ran toward the sound. "No!" Rain shouted. But it was too late. Trillick reached the area, only to find blood. Not much. Just a small splash, no body, no sign of struggle, just silence. "What is this thing?" Trillick gasped. Rain stepped beside him, eyes scanning the trees. It's not just fast. It knows how to hunt. It's using the trees to move, watching, testing us. This is supposed to be a training exercise. Rain looked at him coldly. Not anymore. The group pushed on, shaken and scared. Every snap of a branch made them jump. Every bird cry made them turn. Jula moved beside Rain again, her voice quiet. Why us? Why this jungle? Rain didn't know the answer. But he had a theory. This place isn't natural. The ground is too soft. The trees are too perfect. The animals act wrong. It's like someone made it this way. A hunting ground. That theory grew stronger when they found the clearing. The trees opened up suddenly, revealing a strange scene: 8 helmets on sticks, arranged in a circle. Alien helmets, old models, rusted. Some were cracked. Some still had dried blood on them. A chill ran through the cadets. What is this? Jula whispered. Rain walked into the circle carefully, then knelt beside one of the helmets. He touched the stick it was mounted on. It had alien writing carved into it. Not from any known language. This is a warning, he said, to others. Who would do this? Someone asked. Rain stood up. A hunter. One that wants you to fear it before it kills you. The sky darkened as clouds rolled in. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder. It soaked their armor and packs. The jungle grew slick and slippery. We can't stop now, Rain said. We need to reach that tower. They moved faster. The terrain grew rough. Thick vines tangled their feet. Mud slowed their steps. One cadet twisted her ankle and had to be helped. Then, without warning, the jungle screamed again. This time, it wasn't just a voice. It was a sound of pain, of anger. Everyone turned toward it. Rain didn't wait. He ran toward the noise, knife in hand. He found a cadet Sarn on the ground, blood leaking from a gash on his shoulder. A strange metal dart stuck from his armor. His eyes were wide. I didn't see it, Sarn gasped. It was like invisible. Rain pulled the dart out and studied it, sharp, coated in a dark green liquid. Poison, he said, but not enough to kill. Just slow. Why would it use poison that doesn't kill? Jula asked. Arriving with the others, Rain looked up at the trees to test how we react. They had no choice now. Sarn had to be carried. The group moved slower, more exposed. But the tower was closer now. As they moved, the trees grew thinner, the light brighter, the mist faded. But the danger grew worse. Something kept clicking in the shadows, something fast. We have to stop and make a stand. Rain said, no way. Trillic shouted, we're too close. If we keep running, it'll pick us off one by one. Rain turned to face the group. I'll draw it out. You get to the tower. No, Jula said quickly. You'll die. Rain's face stayed calm. I might. He gave Sarn's weight to Trillic, then stepped away, into the trees. Alone, the jungle was silent. Rain moved slowly, knife in hand. He splashed water on himself to hide heat. He stepped carefully, avoiding dry leaves and loose branches. Then, he heard it. The clicking. Closer. He crouched under a thick root, holding his breath. A shape moved, barely visible, like a shimmer in the air. It stepped lightly, walking on clawed feet, long arms, sharp shoulders. Rain threw a stone far to the left. The creature turned. Rain leaped from cover, charging silently, and stabbed upward. The knife hit metal. The creature screeched and spun, swiping at Rain with a glowing blade. It missed by inches. Rain rolled, grabbed mud, and threw it at its face. The shimmer broke. The creature appeared fully, now tall, armored, mask-covered, glowing eyes. It roared and charged. Rain ran. He ducked under branches, leaped over roots. Zig-zagging. The creature followed fast, almost gliding. Rain led it into the clearing, and the cadets were waiting. Jula hit it with a shock bolt. Another cadet threw a flash grenade. The light exploded, blinding it for seconds. Rain jumped again, blade ready, and slashed across its chest. The creature stumbled. Trillic aimed his rifle but paused. "We can kill it now," he said. Rain looked at the hunter. "No, let it go." "What?" "We let it crawl back. Let it tell the others humans are not prey." The hunter stared at Rain, breathing hard through its mask. Then it cloaked again and vanished into the trees. The jungle fell silent. They reached the tower just before sunset. The relay was old, but Rain managed to fix a broken panel. The signal light blinked green, a message sent. They had survived the first hunt. But Rain knew more were coming. This was just the beginning. The rain hadn't stopped all night. It fell hard through the jungle canopy, washing blood off the leaves and turning the earth below into thick red mud. The cadets were silent as they walked, their eyes scanning the shadows, their shoulders tight with fear. Every branch crack, every strange bird cry made them freeze. Rain led the group. His clothes were soaked, but he didn't seem to care. His eyes were sharp, always moving. His knife was in his hand again, coated in black marks from the last fight. No one asked if he slept. They knew the answer. Behind him, Jula whispered, "Why do you look like this doesn't bother you?" Rain didn't turn around. He answered while watching the trees, "Because I've seen worse." "You've seen worse than this?" Jula's voice shook. "We're being hunted by invisible aliens. This isn't normal." Rain stopped. He crouched beside a wide green leaf covered in water and blood. The blood was fresh, not human, not cadet. Something else. He looked up slowly. "They're bleeding too now." Trillic stepped forward. "You injured one last night. Do you think they'll come back angry?" Rain stood up. "They're not angry. They're learning. Adapting. They always do." Jula's face twisted in confusion. "How do you know that?" Rain didn't answer. He just kept walking. They reached a small cave under a cliff and decided to rest. The relay tower they'd reached earlier had worked, but barely. It sent a distress signal extraction in 36 hours. That meant one more full night. Maybe two. Inside the cave, the cadets sat around a dim fire. The wind howled outside. Sarn lay in the corner, still weak from the poisoned dart. His wound cleaned, but healing slow. They ate silently dry ration bars and boiled water. Finally, someone asked what they had all been thinking. "Rain," said a young cadet with silver eyes. "Where are you from, really?" Rain didn't look up from his knife. "Earth." "No, I mean, what happened to you? Why aren't you scared like us?" The fire crackled. Rain slowly looked at the group, his face blank, voice quiet. "When I was 9 years old, a predator came into our village. A wild beast, bigger than a tank, faster than any man. It destroyed everything. My parents tried to fight it off while I hid under the floorboards." He paused. The cadets leaned in. "I stayed there for 2 days, listening to it breathe, to it move, to it kill. When it was finally gone, I came out. Everything was gone too. Silence." Jula spoke gently. "How did you survive?" Rain's eyes darkened. "I didn't cry. I didn't wait. I walked into the forest with a stick and a broken knife. I stayed there for 10 days. I hunted rats. I learned to drink from leaves. I learned what not to eat. And when the beast came back, I set a trap." "You killed it?" Trillic asked. "No," Rain said. "I didn't need to. I hurt it, made it bleed. Then I stared it in the eyes, and I showed it I wasn't afraid. It left." Jula swallowed. "What kind of animal was it?" Rain stared into the fire. "I don't know its name, but I still remember its eyes. The way it looked at me, like it was testing me." He paused again. "And that's what these things are doing now." Suddenly, a deep growl echoed through the trees outside. Everyone stood up fast, weapons ready. Rain didn't move. He listened. "That's not a real animal." "What do you mean?" Jula whispered. "It's a call. A trick. They want us to leave the cave." One of the cadets stepped toward the entrance. "Maybe they're bluffing." Rain grabbed his arm. No, they want us to think they're bluffing. Another sound came, a scream, a cadet's voice, desperate. Help. Please, someone help me. The group turned pale. That's Zur's voice. One shouted. Rain stood slowly, knife still in hand. No, it's not. Zur is dead. They recorded his voice and are playing it back. They're trying to break us. But what if it's real? Rain's voice grew cold. If you step out there, you will die. Or worse. The scream came again. Closer, too close. Rain's eyes narrowed. They're outside. The fire flickered, then cracked. The cave ceiling shook. Rocks fell. Dust dropped from above. They're on the roof. Trillick yelled. Rain shouted, "Back wall, everyone move." Just as the cadets rushed away, the roof burst open. A large figure dropped into the cave, tall, cloaked, glowing eyes, claws like knives. The hunter roared, then swung its blade. One cadet screamed, sliced across the arm. Rain moved fast. He slid under the creature and stabbed upward. The blade hit armor. Sparks flew. The creature kicked him hard into the wall. "Get behind me!" Trillick yelled, firing his blaster. The shot hit the hunter's mask, cracking it. The creature howled and vanished, its cloak activating again. Where is it? Someone shouted. Rain shook his head, blood running from his lip. Listen. A branch broke outside. Rain stood, wincing, and pointed toward the trees. They're not used to losing. It's changing the game. The group moved out fast. The cave was no longer safe. They ran through the jungle, rain pouring, mud deep under their boots. They ran until their lungs burned. They didn't stop until they reached an old crash site, a rusted ship, long buried under moss and vines. Rain checked it quickly. This will do. For now, they entered the broken hull. The metal creaked under their weight, but it held. Inside, it smelled of rot and oil. But there was one thing they needed, an old power core. If I can fix this, Rain said, we might boost our distress signal. Can you do that? Jula asked. Rain nodded. My father was a ship engineer. He taught me before he didn't finish. Instead, he pulled open the panel and began working. Outside, the rain stopped. The jungle was silent again, too silent. Jula sat near him, her hands shaking. I don't understand why they do this. Why not just kill us all? Rain kept working. Because that's not what hunters do. They don't just kill, they study. They chase, they test. Test what? Rain looked up at her. Who's weak? Who's strong? Who fights? Who runs? A loud beep sounded. The panel blinked, green dot signal active. He turned to the group. Get ready. That signal will draw them here. We hold out until extraction. Trillick nodded. Then we make them bleed again. That night, they set traps around the ship's spike pits, rope snares, motion alarms. Rain coated their armor in mud again to lower their heat signature. They waited in silence until the clicking came. Back, 1 click, 2, 3. Rain closed his eyes. There's more than one. Suddenly, a cadet screamed. The trap alarms fired. 2 hunters dropped from the trees, blades shining. Rain leaped forward. The fight was chaos. 1 cadet was taken in the first minute. Another managed to stab a hunter in the leg before being thrown into a wall. Rain fought like fire. Fast, sharp, brutal. He rolled under attacks, kicked weapons away, and stabbed deep. 1 hunter cloaked, but Rain grabbed dirt and flung it. The figure reappeared, stunned. Rain drove his knife into its chest and it shrieked and collapsed. Trillick and Jula fought together, blasting another in the side. It stumbled, then disappeared. Blood covered the leaves. Both red and black. The last hunter stood tall, face exposed, mask broken. Its green eyes locked with Rain's. Rain stared back. No more games, he whispered. They charged each other. The final battle was short and brutal. Rain stabbed. The hunter blocked. Clawed. Rain ducked. Then Rain did something unexpected. He dropped his knife. The hunter paused. Confused, Rain stepped forward, hands up. "I'm not afraid of you." The hunter hesitated. Rain moved closer until their faces were only inches apart. "I know what you are." The hunter tilted its head, then stepped back and walked away. Everyone stared in shock. "What just happened?" Jula asked. Rain picked up his knife. "I passed the test." The night air was thick with silence. Not the peaceful kind. The silence felt heavy, full of danger. The jungle around the crash site didn't make a single sound. Not a bird, not an insect. Even the wind had stopped. Rain stood on top of the wrecked ship, watching the dark forest. His knife was in one hand, a motion sensor in the other. It blinked red once, then stopped. "They're out there," he said quietly. Below, inside the broken ship, Jula and Trillik were checking weapons and traps. Sarn, still weak but alive, leaned against the wall. Only 5 cadets remained now. The rest had either been taken or killed. Jula looked up at Rain. "Do you think they'll come tonight?" Rain didn't answer right away. His eyes searched the trees like a wolf looking for movement. "They're already here," he said. Just then, the sensor blinked again twice. Closer, Rain jumped down from the wreck. "Get ready. Stay quiet. No lights." Trillik grabbed his blaster. "We'll fight them." Rain shook his head. "No, not yet. First, watch them." They hid behind the ship's broken wall and waited. Then, something moved, slowly from the edge of the jungle. Tall shadows stepped forward, 3 of them. They didn't hide. They walked calmly, like they owned the jungle. Their armor was dark gray and curved, almost alive. Their faces were hidden behind sleek masks with glowing green eyes. Long blades hung from their arms, but this time they weren't cloaked. Rain narrowed his eyes. "They want to be seen." One of the hunters stepped closer, then stopped 10 meters from the group. It pulled something from its belt, something small and round, and tossed it onto the ground. A bright blue light flashed. A hologram appeared above it. The cadets stared as a strange language flickered across the air symbols. Glyphs, shapes none of them recognized. "What's it saying?" Jula whispered. Rayn stepped closer to the projection. "It's not a message," he said slowly. "It's a record." The hologram shifted. Now it showed videos, images of past hunts. Alien species being chased, captured, killed. Beasts much larger than humans falling under the same blades. Some begged. Some fought. None survived. Then the final image appeared, the cadets themselves. Faces, movements, camps, heat signatures all recorded. Even Rain's face zoomed in, observed, labeled. "They've been watching since day 1, Rain said. "This jungle isn't just their territory. It's their training ground." One of the hunters suddenly raised its hand and pointed directly at Rain. Trillik stepped in front of him. "What do they want?" Rain's voice was cold. "They want me." "Why you?" "Because I fought back. Because I bled one of them. Because I survived." The hunter lowered its hand and then, without a word, all 3 vanished, cloaking. In an instant. Silence returned. Jula looked terrified. "They didn't attack." "Why not?" Rain answered. "Because the game isn't over. They're raising the level." That night, the group reinforced every trap. Rain gave each cadet clear instructions. "If one of us gets taken, do not chase. Don't break the formation. These things count on panic." Sarn, pale and tired, nodded weakly. "We're not cadets anymore. We're soldiers." The sky turned red at dawn. Sunlight crept through the mist. And that's when they heard it. A loud explosion in the distance. "Not natural," Rain said. They ran toward the sound, weapons ready. As they pushed through thick vines and trees, they saw smoke rising ahead. A small shuttle, one of the Academy's older models, was burning in a clearing. It had crashed hard. Rain approached slowly. Inside they found 2 bodies, burned, but not by the crash. "Rescue team?" Trillik asked. Rain checked the armor. No, scouts. Scouts from our academy? No, Rain said, holding up a strange tag. Different uniform, no ID chip. These weren't here to help us. They were sent to watch. Jula looked around nervously. From who? Rain's voice dropped. Someone who knew what this jungle really was. Before they could say more, a strange sound echoed across the trees. Boom, boom. Drums. Alien drums. Rhythmic. Getting louder. It's a signal, Rain said. To start the hunt. Suddenly, movement surrounded them. From all sides. Hunters stepped from the shadows. Not just 3, now more. At least 8, maybe 10. Each wore different armor, some with red stripes, others with golden marks. Rain's heart raced. Different ranks, he whispered. Some are trainees. Some are leaders. The hunters formed a loose circle around the cadets, but didn't attack. One stepped forward. It was taller, broader, and carried a long staff. Its mask was different silver, carved with ancient marks. It spoke. The voice was deep, echoing through. A translator, human, Rain. The cadets gasped. Rain stepped forward. You speak? The hunter tilted its head. Understand. Not speak your tongue well. Rain gripped his knife. Why are you hunting us? The hunter raised its staff. Test, fight, learn, choose. Choose what? Warrior, weak, hunter, prey. Jula whispered. They're selecting? Rain kept his eyes on the silver one. You used us for training. Yes, the hunter said. Young ones must hunt, learn blood, earn mask. Rain's jaw tightened. You killed our people, for a lesson. The hunter nodded once. Your kind strong, not like others. Some survive, few fight. Rain stepped closer, fury in his voice. Then fight me. No hiding, no cloaks. 1 on 1. The hunter paused. Then dropped its staff. Accepted. The others backed away, forming a large open circle. Rain handed his knife to Trillic. If I lose, run, don't stop. Trillic shook his head. We're not leaving you. Rain didn't respond. He stepped into the ring. The silver hunter removed his mask. Underneath, the face was scarred, reptilian, intelligent eyes. Long fangs. It dropped into a fighting stance. Rain raised his fists. The battle began. The hunter moved fast. Too fast for something its size. It struck with claws, sharp and deadly. Rain dodged, rolled, kicked. His fists landed blows, but the hunter didn't flinch. He jumped, wrapping an arm around its neck. The hunter slammed him into the ground. Rain spat blood but stood again. You hit hard, he said, but not smart. The hunter roared. Rain grabbed mud and flung it into its eyes. Blinded for a second, Rain lunged. He struck with everything he had: elbows, knees, headbutts. He climbed its back and twisted its neck. The hunter roared again. Falling to one knee, Rain pulled a hidden blade from his boot, held it to the creature's throat. Silence. Then the hunter held up one hand. Surrender. Rain backed away. The circle broke. The other hunters lowered their weapons. Then, something no one expected happened. The silver hunter knelt before Rain and placed its mask at his feet, a gesture of respect. The other hunters followed, one by one. They touched fists to their chests. Jula whispered. They're honoring him. Trillic blinked. I don't believe it. Rain picked up the mask and stared at it, then looked around the circle. You used us, he said. You turned our test into your game. The silver one looked up. No more game. Rain stepped forward. Then let us leave. The silver hunter nodded once. Safe path, 10 clicks east, no more hunt. As the cadets moved away, the hunters faded into the jungle. No more drums. No more sounds. They walked for hours. Finally, at the edge of the forest, a signal beacon blinked. A real one. The extraction ship landed with flashing lights and soldiers pouring out. The cadets were pulled aboard. A commander stepped forward. We picked up your signal. Barely. What happened here? Rain looked back toward the trees. Nothing. You're ready for. As the ship rose into the sky, Jula sat beside Rain. Do you think they'll come back? Rain held the hunter's mask in his hands. They never left. The extraction ship flew through the clouds, cutting across the deep green jungle below. Inside, Rain sat in silence, the silver hunter's mask resting on his lap. The others sat near him: Jula, Trilok, Sarn, and 2 cadets who had somehow made it this far. Their bodies were bruised, their armor scratched, but their eyes were alive. They had survived, but Rain didn't look relieved. Something's wrong, he said suddenly. Trilok turned. We're finally going home, Rain. Relax. Rain's eyes didn't move from the jungle below. No, this isn't over. The pilot's voice came over the speaker. We're getting interference from the tower. Switching to manual wait, something's. A loud explosion rocked the ship. Alarms blared. The lights went red. The ship shook hard, throwing everyone from their seats. We're hit. The pilot shouted through the front window. Fire burst from the side engine. Rain jumped up, grabbing a safety strap and pulling Jula to her feet. Brace! Crash position now! The ship twisted violently, spinning down. Trees rushed up from below. The ground came fast. Then impact. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. The world flipped upside down. Then everything went black. Rain opened his eyes to smoke and fire. His ears rang. Something warm trickled down his forehead. He looked around. The ship had crashed into a swamp. Water leaked through the broken walls. One wing was completely gone. He pulled himself up and coughed. Jula? Trilok? A soft voice answered, Here. Jula was pinned under a seat. Rain rushed over, gritting his teeth, and pulled it off her. You're okay, he said. We need to move. Outside, something growled. Rain froze. That sound wasn't an animal. He helped Jula out. Trilok crawled from the other side, his armor dented but still whole. Sarn limped out next. 1 cadet had died in the crash. The other was unconscious. Rain looked up. 3 hunters stood on the hill above them, watching. No cloaks, Rain whispered. They want us to know they're here. Trilok raised his blaster. Let's take them. No, Rain said. We're not in a fair fight. We need to control the ground. Jula looked around. There's nowhere to run. Rain stared. Into the jungle, then we don't run. He turned back to the ship. We turned the crash into a trap. They worked fast. Rain took charge, using broken wires, leaking fuel, and sharp metal pieces to create a deadly defense line. He wrapped cords around trees and placed heavy wreckage to block paths. He made spears from ship debris and coated them in battery acid. Sarn placed sensor beacons along the outer edge. Jula used mirrors and light from flares to blind any cloaked figures. Trilok set up a makeshift turret using the Rex weapon core. Rain stood in the center, his face sharp, eyes calm. This is where we fight, he said. We make them regret coming back. As night fell, the jungle grew quiet again, too. Quiet. Everyone crouched behind cover. The fire from the crash burned low, casting flickering shadows across the trees. Then the clicking began, soft, fast, surrounding them. Rain's eyes narrowed. They're here. A flash movement to the left, then right. One of the beacons blinked red. Incoming. Trilok shouted. The first hunter dropped from a tree, charging with twin blades. Trilok fired. The turret blue plasma cut through the air and hit its leg. The hunter howled and crashed into the mud. Another came from behind. Jula blinded it with a flare. Sarn stabbed it through the side with a sharpened beam. It screamed and vanished into the shadows. But then came the third. It was bigger than the others. Its armor was gold. Its movements were fast, deadly. It jumped straight at Rain. Rain dodged barely and rolled under it. The hunter slashed, cutting his arm. Rain cried out, then slashed back with his blade. Drawing blood, the hunter kicked him, sending him crashing into a tree. Trillic shouted, "Rain!" "I'm fine," Rain growled. The golden hunter advanced again. This time, Rain didn't run. He charged. The two clashed in a storm of blades and fists. Each move was fast, brutal. The others couldn't keep up. Rain blocked a downward strike, then kneed the hunter in the chest. He grabbed a broken spear from the ground and stabbed upward. The hunter caught it, midair, and snapped it. Rain smiled. That's what he wanted. He threw dirt into the hunter's face and dived to the side. The hunter stepped forward and into a trap. Rain had planted a fuel-soaked wire just behind him. When the hunter triggered it, a spark flew. Boom. Fire exploded, covering the golden hunter. It roared in pain and dropped to one knee. Rain walked over slowly, blood running from his lip. "You picked the wrong prey." He raised his blade, but the hunter didn't move. It looked up at Rain. Then it removed its mask. Beneath the armor was a face full of scars. Its mouth bled, but its eyes, dark reptilian, were full of something strange. Respect. Rayn paused, then stepped back. "You live, but you leave. All of you. Or next time. I don't stop." The golden hunter touched its chest, a strange salute, then disappeared into the trees. The others followed, just like that. The jungle was silent again. Jula ran to Rain. "You did it. You beat them." Rain shook his head. "No, I sent a message." Trillic stood beside them, arms crossed. "What message?" "That humans aren't prey. We fight back." By morning, the extraction ship finally arrived, real this time. Soldiers poured out, scanning the wreck and checking vitals. One medic gasped when they saw Rain's wounds. "How are you still standing?" Rain didn't answer. He stared at the jungle, the tree still hiding secrets. The commander approached. "We picked up your second signal." "You're lucky we got through the interference." Rain nodded. "It wasn't luck." The commander looked confused. "What happened here?" Rain looked at the soldiers, then at his team: Jula, Trillic, Sarn, survivors, warriors. He didn't answer the commander. He simply walked to the ship. As they flew up, Jula leaned closer. "What happens now?" Rain looked down at the jungle fading beneath them. "We train better. We prepare," Trillic smirked. "And if they come again?" Rain looked at him. "Then we hunt them." 3 days had passed since Rain and his team escaped the jungle. The Academy ship flew them back to the orbital station above the Death World. But the nightmares stayed with them. The trees, the clicking, the glowing eyes. It all lived in their minds now. Rain sat alone in the debriefing chamber. A bright light beamed down on him. Behind the one-way glass, 3 commanders watched, silent, judging. A voice came from a speaker above him. Cold and official. "Cadet Rain, describe the final encounter again." Rain leaned forward. "They lured us in. It wasn't an accident. The jungle was a trap. We were the prey. And someone in the Academy knew." There was a pause. "Are you saying the Academy leadership planned it?" "I'm saying someone wanted to see how humans perform under pressure, real pressure, life or death." Another voice joined in. "And what did they learn, Rain?" Rain looked up, voice calm. "They learned that humans don't break. We fight back." Behind the glass, one of the commanders turned to another and whispered, "He's not just a survivor. He's dangerous." Rain could feel their fear. And he smiled. Later in the recovery bay, Jula sat beside Sarn, who was resting with his leg in a cast. Trillic leaned against the wall, arms crossed. They had all been cleared for duty, but none of them wanted to leave without answers. Rain walked in quietly. Trillic asked, "Did they believe your report?" "They didn't have a choice," Rain said. "We brought back recordings, scans, blood samples. They can't cover it up." "But will they do anything?" Jula asked, Rain was silent. That was the answer. Suddenly, the door slid open. A man in a gray uniform entered. Tall, clean, cold eyes. His name badge said, Agent Morin, Special Division. He spoke without smiling. Cadet Rain, follow me. Alone, Rain stood. Why? Because the hunters are back. Inside a secure war room, Morin placed a tablet on the table. A video played. A small research outpost on another jungle moon. At first, everything looked calm. Then came the clicking, shadows, screams. The feed cut to black. 2 days ago, Morin said. Same hunting patterns, same tech. But this time, they didn't just disappear. They left a message. He slid the tablet across. A symbol glowed on the screen. A mask split in half. Rain stared at it. They're declaring war. No, Morin said. They're issuing a challenge. To you, Jula stepped forward. You can't let him go back alone. Trillic added, we fought together. We go together. Morin considered it. Fine, but this time, you're not just bait. Within hours, they were back in orbit, looking down on another jungle moon. The terrain was harsher than before, more cliffs, caves, and dense brush. Morin handed them a map, we believe. They've set a new hunting ground here, a larger one, with multiple teams. Why? Trillic asked. Rain answered, because they want to prove a point. That even after surviving once, we can't do it again. Morin nodded. They don't understand humans yet, Rain smiled. They will. Before drop, Jula pulled Rain aside. You sure about this? This time, Rain said, tightening his gear, we set the trap. They dropped into the jungle at night. The darkness was thicker than before. No stars, only wind and fog. Rayn. Jula, Trillic, and 2 new elite scouts moved quickly. Rain had chosen the landing zone himself, an old mining facility, long abandoned, with narrow tunnels and metal platforms. Perfect for turning the hunt upside down. They spent hours wiring. Trap strip mines, motion-triggered gas bursts, high-frequency noise bombs. Rain even built a heat signal decoy that looked exactly like himself. It pulsed behind an old generator. Trillic looked at it and laughed. You really want them chasing your ghost? Rain grinned. They like the game. Let's give them one. At dawn, the first click came, then another. Jula whispered, they're here. Everyone took positions. Rain stood in the open courtyard, hands at his sides, waiting. One of the scouts called out softly from his post. Contact on the ridge. 2. Cloaked. Rain didn't move. Then came the rush. A hunter leapt from the tree straight for Rayn. At the last second, Rain rolled aside. The hunter landed on a pressure plate. Boom. The ground exploded, hurling the creature backward. 2 more emerged from the mist. Blasters fired. Traps triggered. Screams filled the air. The jungle Deathtrap had flipped. Now they were the prey. Inside the mining tunnels, another group of hunters tried to flank them. Rain had expected this. He activated the high-frequency emitters. A piercing sound filled the cave, louder than a scream. The hunters stumbled, disoriented. Jula tossed a flash charge. Light blinded them. Trillic charged, firing plasma rounds into the smoke. Run, you cowards! Rain moved like a ghost, quick, silent, precise. He didn't fight with rage. He fought like a surgeon. 1 slash, 1 strike. 1 down. At one point, a hunter cornered him. They locked eyes. Rain whispered, I remember you. It swung. He ducked. The blade missed. Rain drove his knife deep under its arm. It collapsed. He turned to the others. 1 left. But this one was different. It stood at the edge of the old platform, taller, heavier, glowing red armor. Rain stepped forward. You lead them. The creature nodded once. Rain dropped his weapons. The hunter did the same. They circled each other. Silent. Rain struck first, a quick jab to test its speed. The hunter blocked. Then came the real fight. Fists, elbows, throws. Each hit could break bone. Each move was a test of skill and heart. Rain was smaller, but smarter. He ducked under a powerful swing and tackled the hunter. Slamming its back against the railing dot, the platform cracked. They both fell. They hit the floor below hard. Metal bent. Blood spilled. Rain rolled to his feet first, limping. Hunter rose, breathing heavy. Rain held up a small device. "What's that?" Jula shouted from above. "RAY" and looked at the hunter. "Checkmate." He pressed the button above. The heat decoy activated bright, hot, pulsing. The other hunters, drawn to the fake signal, had surrounded it. Rain had linked the decoy to the old fuel tanks buried under the platform. The whole mountain shook. Massive explosion. Fire rose into the sky. The last hunter watched in silence. Rain stepped closer. "Your trap failed." The hunter dropped to one knee. And for the first time spoke. In clear, rough English, "You are Predator." Rain nodded. Double quotes. "No, we are human." Later, as they flew back, Morin met them at the dock. "You destroyed the whole zone," Rain answered calmly. "It wasn't safe for anyone else." Morin raised an eyebrow. "And the last hunter?" Rain looked out the window at the burning jungle. "Let him live. He'll spread the message." Morin crossed his arms. "And what message is that?" Rain turned to him. "That Earth is not your hunting ground, not your test field, and that we don't run. We never run." Thunder rolled across the sky as the storm moved in. Thick black clouds gathered above the endless green jungle. The air was heavy, wet, full of danger. Rain stood at the edge of the cliff, looking down at the jungle heart, the ancient ruins. Deep in the center of the death world. The last signal from the hunters had come from here, strong, clear, and deliberate. Behind him, Jula tightened the strap on her armor. "This is it, isn't it?" Rain didn't take his eyes off the valley. "They're waiting for us." Trilek loaded his weapon. "Then let's not be late." After the explosion at the mining zone, things had changed. The hunter who spared Rain had vanished. No more silent games. No more testing. The remaining hunter tribes had gathered for one reason: revenge. Rain's group had been chosen to end. If for good. They were given orders to investigate and eliminate the threat at the jungle heart. But Rain knew the truth. This was not a mission. It was a final stand. "They'll come in numbers," he said. "More than ever before," Jula nodded. "So what do we do?" Rain looked down at the ruins glowing faintly through the trees. "We go into their temple. We end this in the place it all began." Hours later, they reached the outer edge of the jungle heart. The trees were different here. Older, twisted, like they were watching. Stone pillars rose from the ground, covered in alien symbols. The air buzzed. Heat and fear mixed in every breath. Trilek pointed ahead. "Movement, left side." Rain raised his hand. "Stay low, they're close." Suddenly, a dart flew past his head, sharp, silent, fast. Another one struck a tree beside. "Jula, they're testing range," Rain said. "Still playing games." But the moment he finished speaking, the jungle exploded into chaos. 3 hunters charged from the shadows, cloaked until the last second. Blades flashed. Trees cracked. Rain rolled aside as one slashed where he'd been. Trilek fired his blaster, hitting another in the leg. Jula slammed her boot into the third, knocking it back. "They're trying to push us inward," she yelled. "Let them," Rain said. The group ran deeper into the ruins, moving past broken statues and old alien structures. Every wall was carved with images of hunts other species hunted for sport, for pride. Rain gritted his teeth. "This place isn't a temple. It's a trophy room." They reached the main courtyard, a wide circular area surrounded by tall black stones. In the center stood a single pillar. Atop it, a large hunter mask carved in stone, glowing red. Jula's eyes widened. "What is that?" Rain stepped forward. their symbol of dominance, their throne. From all directions, more hunters stepped out, not cloaked, not hiding. This was the showdown. Trillick counted, 12, maybe more. The lead hunter wore gold armor marked with blood-red stripes. His face was bare, scarred from battles long past. He raised a long staff with one hand and pointed at Rain. "You." "Come," the hunter said, his voice deep and broken, but clear. Rain walked to the center. "What do you want?" he asked. The golden hunter growled. "And one way." Rain turned back to his team. "They want a trial, 1 against 1. Number. Traps, no help." "You can't be serious," Jula whispered. Rain looked at her. "I have to." He dropped his knife and stepped into the ring. The golden hunter did the same. Then, without warning, the battle began. Rain moved fast, ducking low under a swipe and punching hard into the hunter's gut. The hunter grunted, but didn't fall. It swung its arm wide and struck Rain across the face. Blood flew. Rain dropped, rolled, and jumped back up. He kicked hard into the hunter's knee. The joint cracked. The hunter stumbled, but not for long. It rushed forward, tackled Rain, and slammed him into the ground. The air was knocked from his lungs. The hunter raised its fist to strike again, but Rain twisted, pulled, and locked its arm between his legs. The hunter roared in pain. Rain yelled, twisting harder. Suddenly, the hunter flipped them both. They rolled across the dirt, grappling like animals. Rain saw something flash. One of the other hunters had stepped forward, breaking the rules. Trillick shouted, "Behind you!" Jula fired a warning shot into the air. Rain heard the click behind him, but before the rogue hunter could strike, the golden one growled loudly and stood between them. It raised its hand, commanding silence. The rogue backed off. Rain stood slowly, panting, blood on his hands. "You follow rules," he said. "Even now." The golden hunter nodded. "Honor," it said. Rain nodded back. "Then fight me to the end." The hunter roared and rushed forward. Rain dodged, stepped in close, slammed his forehead into the hunter's skull. The sound cracked through the courtyard. Hunter dropped to one knee. Rain didn't stop. He grabbed the alien's head and held his blade to its throat, but he didn't strike. Instead, he said, "Now you choose. End this or let it go." The golden hunter looked up, bloody, broken, but proud. Then slowly, it placed its hand on Rain's and pushed the blade down. Surrender. Rayn, let go. He turned to the other hunters. "It's over." For a moment, there was silence. Then one by one, the hunters stepped back. Jula lowered her weapon. Trillick stared in disbelief. "They're leaving?" Rain looked around the ancient jungle heart. They came to see if humans would break. We didn't. As the hunters disappeared into the trees, the ruins grew quiet again. But something was different. The war was over. Back on the extraction ship, the team sat in silence. Jula looked at Rain. "You could have killed him." Rain shook his head. "No, that's not strength. Strength is knowing when to stop." Trillick smiled. "You think they'll come back?" "They will," Rain said. "But next time, not as hunters. Maybe as equals." Jula leaned back, looking out at the jungle fading below. "The heart of the jungle almost killed us," Rain nodded. "And now it knows. We have won too." The jungle was alive with sounds, low growls, rustling leaves, snapping branches. Rain moved carefully, his eyes sharp in the dim light. Around him, the alien world was strange and wild, but his steps were steady. He wasn't alone in this place anymore. Something bigger was watching. He stopped by a stream and crouched, listening. The water flowed fast, cool against the stones. He dipped his fingers in, drinking slowly. Suddenly, a heavy breath came from behind a thick tree. Rain froze. He turned slowly and saw it. A massive beast, larger than any predator he had ever faced. Its skin was thick and covered with sharp spikes. Its eyes glowed bright yellow. full of hunger and rage. The beast snarled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Rain whispered, "I don't want to fight you, but I will if I have to." The beast growled. Back, stepping closer, muscles rippling. It moved like a shadow, quiet but deadly. Rain reached for his blade but stopped. The jungle was quiet except for their heavy breaths. "Why are you here?" Rain asked, voice low. The beast didn't answer. Instead, it charged. Rain dodged to the side, feeling the rush of air as the beast's claws tore the ground where he stood moments before. He rolled and sprang up, slashing with his blade. The beast howled, but the blade only scratched its thick hide. Rain backed away, searching for a plan. He saw broken branches, sharp stones, anything he could use. The beast growled and lunged again. This time, Rain led it toward the stream. Water splashed as they fought, slipping and sliding. The beast was fast, but the wet ground slowed it. Rain grabbed a heavy stick, sharpened one end with his blade, and waited. The beast charged again. Rain dodged and jabbed the stick into its side. The beast screamed, retreating a few steps. Rain breathed hard. "You're strong, but so am I." The fight went on, each attack testing both their strength. Rain knew he couldn't keep this up forever. The beast was getting tired too, but its rage made it dangerous. Suddenly, Rain had an idea. He shouted, "Come on!" The beast paused, confused. Rain ran toward a narrow path between the trees, leading to a small cliff. The beast followed, snarling. At the edge, Rain jumped over a fallen log and rolled. The beast charged blindly and crashed into the log. Stumbling near the cliff's edge, Rain didn't waste time. He ran to the side, grabbing a sharp stone. The beast tried to recover, but was slower now. Rain lunged, cutting deep into its leg. The beast howled in pain and lost balance. It tumbled over the cliff, crashing through branches as it fell. Rain stood at the edge, heart pounding. He looked down. No movement. The jungle was silent once more. Rain whispered, "I survived." As the sun rose, light filtered through the trees. The beast was gone, but Rain knew the jungle still held dangers. He wiped his blade clean and moved forward. He was a Deathworlder, now stronger, smarter, and ready for whatever came next. The end.